Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. Today, as Corax week continues, we're going to be taking a look at the relationship between himself and the Night Haunter, Konrad Curze. Now, we're going to be referencing a couple of different books today, so a general spoiler warning to begin. As always, I really recommend you read the stories for yourself first, as that's the best way to enjoy the lore for yourself. Not only that, we help to support the great Games Workshop and Black Library, because without them, we don't have this amazing lore to talk about. I will link all the novels discussed in the description as always. But with that said, let's just jump straight in. Now, earlier in the week, we discussed what I believe to be not only Corax's most defining moment, but also his greatest, as he gave everything he had to save his sons during the drop site massacre. And as we saw during this, Corax absolutely demolished his brother Lorgar, just beating him from pillar to post, and ultimately only being stopped from killing him by the arrival of Konrad Curze, the Night Haunter. Now, when this first occurred all those many years ago, the general opinion among many was that Corax had fled from this encounter because he was scared of Curze. And I think this arose entirely from the portrayal of Curze in this moment, rather than Corax himself. As Corax throws the killing stroke to end Lorgar, only to see it blocked by Curze, you are immediately given the description of Corax's face being fierce with effort, whereas Curze is smiling. And he then proceeds to utter the words, "Look into my eyes and see your death." So immediately you're given the impression Konrad has the upper hand. And well, he does. But that is more a matter of circumstances than outright superiority. Corax has been fighting against overwhelming odds, dashing from one desperate encounter to the next, before then taking on his fellow Primarch Lorgar. And despite Corax having the upper hand in this encounter, he is still going at it against another Primarch, and he took his fair share of blows in the process, and losing one of his lightning claws. He is in no position to now take on Curze too. Then, as Corax attempts to free himself, Curze utters the line, "Do not fly away, little raven. Stay. We are not finished, you and I." So it's very easy to understand why people felt like Corax was afraid of Curze. And I actually think they go on to use this and develop the relationship between the two further as the series progresses. But as you can see, most of this perception, at least to me, arises from the Night Haunter's words and actions, and not Corax's. Corax really doesn't give much away at all, other than trying to free himself from the predicament. Having been fighting for his life for quite some time, then taking on a brother Primarch, with only one functioning weapon left, did he really stand a chance in now standing and fighting Curze too? Now, this relationship between the Primarchs is then further developed in the novel Deliverance Lost by Gav Fulp, where we see Corax reflecting on this encounter, at being so close to death at Curze's hand. And here, Corax is completely confident in his own prowess. Corax knew himself to be numbered amongst the best fighters in the service of the Emperor, and he had never considered Curze his equal. Curze was ill-disciplined, capable of sporadic genius, but equally prone to moments a warrior like Corax could exploit with deadly effect. So it's laid clear here, Corax knows he could defeat Curze, at least in a straight up encounter. But that's not selling Curze short, as it goes on to admit that in that moment upon Isstvan, he did feel fear. Not fear of Curze himself, but in that moment, he truly realised how similar he and his brother were, and in doing so, realised how close he could have been to being in Curze's place. And Corax despises himself for this, cursing that he should have stayed, and ended Curze and Lorgar both. Which is most likely pride talking, because as good as Corax may be, in that situation, with only one claw left, could he really have defeated a fresh, undamaged Nighthaunter? It would have been impressive, no doubt, but I think in truth, he made the right decision. In that state, Curze definitely had the advantage. But regardless, this was the moment that really intertwined Corax and Konrad into being two sides of the same coin. One the honourable, and the other corrupted. Now this goes on to be developed more so when we are given a fantastic glimpse once more into the dynamic between the two in Konrad Curze's Primarch novel, The Nighthaunter. Now in this, as Curze is ranting to the statue he believes to be his father, he wonders aloud whether Corax could have followed him down the same dark path if the heresy had never arisen. Both so alike, creatures of darkness, one a murderer, the other an assassin, both surrounded by criminals and intent on justice. "I'll tell you something else," said Curze. "I hated him too. You might think I hated all my brothers. I didn't. They were the ones that hated me. I could not hate them back. Most of them I could tolerate. A few I respected. A couple I loved, though they never returned the affection. But I hated Corax." He looked aside in shame and spoke to the wall. "I hated him so much. I didn't hate him for being like me, nor for being better. Though if he and I were two aspects of the same principle, he was the better one. Everything about us was so similar. To your design," Curze said significantly. "Was he not born into awful straits? Was he not victimized, oppressed? But he did not murder like I did. He used passion and argument, where I used blood. I hated myself for not being like him, but I couldn't despise someone for being what I was not. Why would I hate him for any of those things?" He looked back at the statue and cleared his throat theatrically. Was it that he failed like I did to fully tame his world, meekly handing it over to the Mechanicum? Did I hate him because he was weak? He pressed his face hard into his updrawn knee. I couldn't hate him for that either. He sneered, gnawing at his skin until blood ran. I'll tell you why. Envy of his mastery lay behind my hatred. I hunted the night, but Corax owned it. Breath hissed through dagger teeth. He owned it. My stupid, short-sighted sons thought the Raven's abilities came from technology, given only to the 19th. I saw it. I saw it was innate. Imagine what I could have done had you given the same gifts to me. How much more perfect a monster I would have been had the shadows loved me as much as they loved Corax. So many similarities between the two. So similar, yet so different. You get the sense that Curze and Corax could have actually been two of the closest of brothers, perhaps if only they had been raised on Terra and not scattered to the stars. It's a great what if. But instead, the events of their lives have moulded them each to the Primarchs we see before us. And Curze can't simply envy his brother. He has to hate him for it. And Corax in turn sees a creature he could so easily be and hates himself for it. Two Primarchs, two brothers, so similar, yet so different. A story intertwined and left with wonders of what if. But as always guys, what do you think? Is Corax, as Konrad believes, the true Lord of Shadow? Or is Konrad's mind looking for something to envy, to be jealous of, where in fact there is none? And do you think, like I do, that perhaps if only the Primarchs were raised on Terra, Corax and Konrad could perhaps have been the closest of brothers, with their nature so similar? But as for their true history, do you side with Corax in believing that he is the superior warrior? Or does Curze have the advantage? As always, leave your thoughts in the comments below, I love to read them. Huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. And if you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again tomorrow, as Corax Week continues.